Forspoken is an interesting game, not just in its story, world, and its combat, but its development, release, and reception. Its reception is different based on who spent time with the game, who didn't, and is or isn't a content creator. Content creators fed the narrative that the game is horrible, worst game of the year, generally because it was popular to do so, not because it actually was the worst game of the year, but because the popularity thing was to just say it was a bad game. And every content creator after that just kept furthering that narrative on it being bad because bad equals views, especially if it's a game with a female lead who's not just female but also black, and you're probably going to lead the video just off me saying that alone, like, oh, here we go, some woke bullshit, whatever. When it comes to content creation, what makes cash is all that matters, and if viewership goes up from something negative, then that's what we're going to do it here on YouTube. People who didn't spend much time with the game didn't enjoy it, mostly in part because the game takes a long time to get going, which is a bad thing. While those who like the story, like cutscenes and dialogue, were all able to handle the slow paced start of the game and get to see what Forspoken truly is. These are the kind of people who watch best gear in the game videos, best starting gear, mistakes not to make when you start the game. These videos have thousands and thousands of views and hundreds of comments, a lot being very positive towards the game. When you see things like that, you're sitting there wondering to yourself, but why does it get such a bad flag? Like, what is it about Forspoken that has like all these top creators hating on it, people saying it's so bad? When you look at these comments on YouTube, it's like people are very positive about it. Look at it, the subreddit, people are very positive about it. Why is Forspoken seen so negatively publicly, but secretly very, very loved? You wouldn't expect, if all you did was watch big you chance say that the game is cringe or bad. Even on Steam, it's a mixed reception, with majority of its negative reviews being about performance issues, bugs, and the game feeling empty or incomplete. So the question becomes, is Forspoken a good game that's just another casualty of modern gaming? Modern gaming games are released unfinished, and the final project has to suffer because of that publishing choice. And modern gaming developers' original ideas are screwed over because the publisher thinks this or that would be a better idea and increase the sales. Modern gaming has been a massive flaw and crutch. Not, I won't say crutch, but like an issue with gaming. So many video games in the last few years have suffered because of how modern gaming is when it comes to game publishing. The fact that people don't care about if a game releases badly, as long as it makes money. In modern gaming, games are released without being properly optimized and lacking completion, because wasting an incomplete product equals more money down the line. And we know that this is a fact because Bungie's general manager said at GDC to a room full of publishers and developers that whose games now should be made this way. This is a real thing. There's a video of it. You can go see this GM tell developers, you don't need to make your game work. You don't need to make your game good at launch. It needs to just be good enough to where the marketing team has done a good enough job to make pre-orders and sales, and then you make it better years later. This is Bungie, the people everyone loves and talks about so highly when it comes to why Infinite 3 fails. We also know via the developers of Forspoken that they didn't intend for this game to be what it was. They had higher ambitions and expectations and wanted it to be a different game than what it is. The general ability with the game is like their idea, but there's a lot of changes made because Square Enix made them make changes. How different we'll never know. But it's clear that Square Enix forced developers to make shortcuts, rush the game, and not optimize it. Not to mention, I think Square Enix intentionally sabotaged the PC port to try and get people to buy the game on PlayStation instead. Square Enix is in bed with Sony, and they aren't even shy about it. They publicly make a lot of comments that are very pro Sony. So I do feel like it's just a true thing when it's said that maybe they're intentionally screwing over the PC port, which is why the PC port is awful and poorly optimized. It's trying to get you to buy PlayStation. When PC players complained about Final Fantasy 16 not having a PC release, a developer said just get a PS5. That's a real statement from a developer from Square Enix. Just get a PS5 when PC players complained about there not being a 16 release for PC. So like I said, I do believe it's possible that Square Enix didn't want PC gamers to enjoy Forspoken, thus you can't even run the game at even high settings unless you have a 3070 or better. If you're someone who has a lesser card than a 30 series card, you're pretty much stuck running the game at freaking the lowest of the settings possible. And that's awful because it looks awful. My gameplay you're seeing is just that. I'm 2060, so you're seeing the gameplay on low settings. 60 FPS, so there's at least that. So at this point, you're probably wondering, hey, this is a review. When are you going to talk about the game? Well, right now. But I did want to establish a background for the uphill battle Forspoken had to deal with before getting to talk about the game itself. Why did it release the way that it did? Why it seems incomplete? Why the PC port is what it is? So let's put Forspoken on the scales of judgment and tell you if the game is good or not, months later. As I said before in this video, Forspoken has had a slow start. The first hour or so of the game is cutscenes, slow walking, a lot of dialogue, and you not really doing anything. Even when combat starts in the game, you have basic abilities with little understanding, and this starting combat is kind of boring. All this changes as the game opens up, but again, some people they're sold on the beginning of the game, not what it is in 3 hours or 2 hours. They don't care about what the game is later. And you can also make a conversation about that as well, about that saying of it gets good later. Why do we gotta wait? I think Josh Strife hates the video about that too, where it's like, why do we gotta wait until we're 3 hours in for a game to get good? And again, as I said before in this video, there are people who enjoyed those first 2 hours of the game where it's just dialogue, cutscenes, and slow movement, and basic combats. Some people are okay with that kind of stuff. Some people want way more action than that. Before we get into talking about the combat, visuals, and overall gameplay, let's talk about Forspoken's story. What is this game even about? You play as Frey, a young adult who was abandoned at birth by her parents, left to grow up on the streets in the foster homes of New York City. Frey is in and out of trouble with the law, not necessarily because she's a bad person, but because she's trying to get a better life for herself, through ways of crime. Her dream is to leave New York City with her cat and start over with a fresh life and just overall do better. The American dream. After going through even more hardship, Frey gets to a point where she's considering ending her own life, alive herself. You know what I'm talking about. Before she can even do that, though, she comes across a magical bracelet and a portal to another world opens, sucking Frey into it. This world is called Afia. Aflac, something like I said, Afia. Afia's the name of the goddamn freaking world. There's a world set in a dark fantasy timeline where a group of tyrants are doing what tyrants do best. These tyrants, the Tantas, are pretty much the main antagonists that Frey has to deal with while she tries to get back to New York, or home, wherever that may be, whether it's New York or not in New York. They aren't the only enemies in the game, as an event known as the Break has turned a lot of the human population into zombies. A lot of the wildlife has turned into mutant monsters, all while you experience a pretty sizable open world. This game also has a pretty solid voice acting that includes the likes of Claudia Black, who many of you will know as Morgan in Dragon Age, Tess Evers in Destiny, and Sam in Gears of War. The game also has Deborah Wilson, whom has been pretty much in so many games lately. Most recently is playing Seer in Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order. And of course, if you have to know the main lead, Ella Balenska, whom again I think can't catch a break, because she is a solid actress who has a habit of being casted in like pretty bad projects, or projects that aren't necessarily awful, but people get upset about, or for one reason or another have a complaint towards. She played probably the only good character in the Charlie's Angels remake. She played in the Resident Evil TV show from Netflix that everyone hated and it got canceled, with Lance Reddick was in it, RP Lance Reddick. I personally, as a Resident Evil fanboy, didn't think it was a terrible thing. I wanted to see what it would lead into. And now Forspoken, which has been through its own controversy. Ella does a good job as Frey. Frey's a pretty cool character. I haven't found any of her dialogue to be cringy or annoying. It just sounds like a normal conversation for someone who's her age in this time period. Even the back and forth with the bracelet known as Cuff isn't what people made it out to be. It's really no different than, say, like Ortis and Warframe, or Failsafe from Ghost and Destiny, even Jarvis from Iron Man. Some not so clever editing people would have done in reviews make it seem like it's these things that are just cringy, like they'll piece together one dialogue from one part of the game and then throw in something else from the part of the game that's not actually a part of it, part of that scene, and without any kind of context, just so you can feel like, oh look, this is how bad the dialogue is. The animation of the characters in this game is rough, and it puts a lot of other issues, which show just how rushed this game was and how little time was waiting this game developers to polish, even after forcing them to cut content due to crunch time and things like that. So when I say animations are rough, I don't mean like movement. I just mean like sometimes you will see people, like characters pop in and out. You see a lot of people like kind of stutter when they move. You'll see things like that when it comes to the character animations, and it's just you will definitely see when you play this game, no matter what you think of it, if you think it's good, if you think it's bad, you will see that this game was definitely a rushed project. You'll definitely say this game definitely was a game where the developers had a goal But the publisher's like, no, just put it out right now. You'll patch it later. So now let's talk about the combat for a bit. I know this is a long review. Is like, at least it seemed like that way for me. So it's gonna be a long review. It might not be. It might be, you know, under 20 minutes, or it might be over an hour. Who knows? But let's talk about the combat a little bit. You know, I know you want me to get to it because you all gamers. Gamers love action nowadays. Everything's about action nowadays. Let's get to the combat. The combat of Forspoken, as I stated at the beginning, starts off pretty limited, but quickly it becomes very fast, fluid, fun, and way deeper than you would think by looking at other reviews or looking at some cutscenes. There are different builds in this game, and one of the cool things is if you decide that you don't want to use an ability, you can refund that mana and get all back without no cost. You don't have to like pay a respect fee or respect your entire character. You can just pick any individual spells you don't want to use anymore, get that mana back, and put it to a different spell you want to use. And yes, basically what I'm also saying is that mana is your currency in this game. Like there's multiple currencies in the game for like shops and stuff, but in terms of like your character currency to upgrade your character, upgrade your mana, things like that, your spells and things like that, or unlock spells, use mana. This is a magic-based combat video game with a parkour system as its traversal system and as its dodge system. Mixing them parkour with the combat makes for a very fun experience when you get the hang of it. It takes like a little bit to get the hang of it. Once you do, though, it's really fun. Speaking of traversal, that is something Square Enix kept making a big deal out of. If you watch all the trailers, you know, all the E3 stuff, well, E3 air quotes, you will see that Square Enix had a big emphasis on look at the traversal, look at how Frey moves and things like that, running up walls, you know, web slinging essentially, using magic to make a hoverboard, you know, a lot of traversal things. It looks visually cool, and playing it, it is. You know, visually the game looks okay if you run it on high or ultra. It doesn't look amazing because again, this is a game that's not optimized. This is a game that Square Enix rushed out and didn't give the developers a chance to like really make shine. But on ultra and on high, it looks really good. I've seen cutscenes of the game in 4K, even though myself I didn't play the game in 4K because I have 2060. But I've seen the cutscenes in the game, and I've seen how the open world looks as well. I've seen like how the combat looks in 4K, and it does look good. It does look like a modern video game, but you can definitely tell that they didn't, you know, try to reinvent the wheel or push the boundaries of any kind of platform or any kind of graphics card with the visuals. But again, as I said before in the video, I myself played this game on low settings of 2060, so I definitely couldn't play this game at its full potential, and that sucks. And you do kind of wish you could play it at full potential because I feel like when it comes to PC gaming, especially, your perception of a video game can change if you are or aren't able to play a video game at its highest potential when it comes to its graphic settings and its visuals and things like that. The game's atmosphere could be a little bit better. The sound of the world could be better as well. Atmosphere to me is just the ambience, you know, hearing birds, hearing wind blowing, you know, rain, weather, different kind of weather dynamics, things like that. This game kind of lacks. It seems kind of like a dead world. Like it is a dead world, but it doesn't have to sound dead. That's what I'm trying to reference to. The game just sounds like it's an empty, incomplete, dead world. The open world is only open world when you aren't in a mission. If you are in a mission, the game will force you back on track of the mission. You can go like a little bit around a little bit, but if you get too far from the mission point, it'll teleport you back towards the mission so you can get there to it. There are some open world elements locked behind progression. So there's things you want to do, like get to a dungeon essentially. It might have a ability requirement that you won't get until later in the game. So there's that as well. There's a limit to how much you can explore the game's world, which is unfortunate because this world is begging to be explored. It's definitely a cool open world. Like it looks nice. When you do go around and explore and you parkour around, it's such a good experience. But like the fact that it's just that is behind progression hurts it. You don't want to have a world behind progression. The gear system is very simple and cool. You have cloaks, which have their own stats, but also can come with a passive ability. There's two sets of nails, left hand and right hand. Also have their own stats, their own passive abilities. I like the idea of like the nails, and because, you know, again, female character gets her nails did, you know, things like that. Because it's kind of a little cute. Let's go with that. We'll call it that. It's just a kind of a little cute, especially like the little animation they have for like you put the nails on the character and how it shows on the character's body when you're playing throughout the game. So now it's just like a cosmetic thing. Whereas like you see it in cutscenes or you see it in the menus. You know, your character's actual nails change colors based on what you're doing. And when it comes to that, that's why you have necklaces that also, much like your nails and cloak, have its own stats and passability. I think Frey's design looks pretty cool, and the gear changes you make to her will change her cloak, nails, and necklace, but not her overall outfit. Like she has her own outfit that she wears, which I like. I just like the design of it. Though I do wish that they did have like another gear slot for shoes, where you can change your shoe colors, your shoe types, things like that. And much like the previous items I mentioned before, have like passive abilities and other stats that boost your character. The game clearly aimed to have Frey be a stylish kind of character in some kind of a way. So this would just add it to it overall. And you could have, like I said, you can use like speed, movement, traversal passes for the shoes as our passive ability. Since again, as I said before, all the gear has passives. The skill tree UI could have been better. It's pretty all over the place. It's fairly extensive in terms of like what you can select when it comes to like abilities and skills and things like that. But it's just an ugly UI. You have purple magic, blue magic, red magic, and if I remember correctly, I think there's a green magic as well. I don't remember. But either way, you can make like a variety of different unique builds with all the magic types, or you just do one magic type. It doesn't really matter. You have all the freedom in the world when it comes to how you play the game combat wise. Again, combat in this game is way deeper than you think it is. Overall, I say Forspoken is surprisingly a solid game. It does have its flaws that can be linked back to publishers rushing the game and forcing developers to make changes, but I personally found the story interesting. I really enjoyed the combat, the movement system, and I had fun in the open world when I wasn't locked away from progression. But via progression, yes, I experienced things like black screens where I had to force close the game, had moments where I fell through the map, raindrops, texture pop-ins. It took so long for the texture to pop in that I couldn't even do missions because there's a stairs I gotta go up, but I can't even use the stairs because if I walk into it, I walk through it instead of up the stairs because of pop-ins. There's issues with this game, 100%. People say that there's flaws in this game when it comes to its performance. That is true. But the game itself, the story, the character Frey, the dialogue isn't bad. It's pretty solid. It's enjoyable. It's not an amazing game, but it's definitely not as bad as others make it out to be. If someone told you that the game is a 6 out of 10, I think it's a very fair score. I think a 6 out of 10 score is very fair for this game. Had it been more polished, had the developers had the ability to stick to what their ideas were originally without running things, it probably could be an 8 at best. I say at best because even still, there are things that are the identity of this game that aren't great to push it to like a 9 or 10 had this game been what they wanted it to be. But as it is, a 6 is a fair score when it comes to like a 6 out of 10. I've seen people call it 6 out of 10. I've seen people go way worse than that. Personally, I have fun with it. I enjoy it. I'm going to replay it again when I have a better PC that could run it at a higher level, because I do want to experience the game in its best potential settings. Because I have fun with it. I like the acting, I like the voice actress, I like the idea of the story. The idea is sort of probably what draws me into it the most. The idea of the combat draws me the most, and that's all that matters. Not every game has to be for everyone, and that's okay. If this game's not for you, it's not for you. But there are people out there who enjoy this game, and they're allowed to enjoy things. I do feel like this game was targeted towards a female audience. Again, we mentioned the style of Frey and the nails, things like that. But I also think it's enjoyable for you if you are a male as well. If you just want to play a good, solid open world RPG with magic, you can get those things here. If you played it and that wasn't something that you enjoyed, that's cool. Opinions are opinions. We're all allowed to have them, and it's okay to be respectful. I respect your opinion to not like the game. I ask you to do the same thing when it comes to me, anybody else who enjoys the game. So I played this game 6 months after its release. I literally got it during the summer Steam sale. So after about 6 months, Phoenix hasn't really changed much about this game. This is like a post review thing I want to throw in. Square hasn't really changed much about this game. It has been like enough updates to fix the issues that other people have mentioned since the game's release. It still has majority of those issues. It's been patches, it's been DLCs and things like that, but they haven't fixed the overall performance issues of the game. They haven't made it better to run on a lower end PC rig or a medium PC rig. It's still basically you gotta have a 3070 or higher to see this game at high settings and higher than that. And the game hasn't been better optimized. And usually when it comes to like Sony exclusives on PC, they do have rough launches. Like Spider-Man had a rough launch, God of War had a rough launch, Horizon had a rough launch, Last of Us rough launch. You saw that. But usually Sony has like a lot of updates to make it a better game by now. So, Last of Us is fine on PC now. Spider-Man is fine on PC now. They do updates to make the game perform better, and I appreciate that from Sony. But Square since just don't care. Square doesn't really. It's like they just don't care to make this game more optimized. So they don't care to have it perform better. It's kind of like when I did my review of Final Fantasy VII Remake, where it seemed like they didn't care to have a better control scheme for PC, because controls were mouse keyboard in that game was awful. So combat kind of sucked in that game, or on PC. So anyone was like, "Well, it's so good on PS." I'm a PC gamer. I'm mentioning PC, and so I just feel like Square Enix doesn't care about PC gamers. And again, I said in this video that I feel like they don't want you to play on PC, but they put it on PC just to make money. They want you to play on PlayStation. They just like in a year or two they put it on Xbox. So if you're an Xbox gamer, you'll be able to experience it in a year or two. But what you want to, considering like all the bad press it's gotten, even if someone like me tells you it's actually a pretty good game, again 6 out of 10 is what I agree with. Would you want to play it then? And hell, it might come out before, it might come out sooner than that, just to like whatever, no game, we can put it on for your Xbox. Who cares? Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, if this video, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave any thoughts in the comments below. Follow your boy over on Twitch every Monday to Thursday. Play a variety of different video games. Lately, I'm playing like a Battlefield and some single player games afterwards, like Sword and Fury. By the time you guys see this video, I'll probably be done Sword and Fury, so I won't play that. But I might be playing Battlefield though. But do all things. I'm gonna like video, comment, subscribe. I have a link in the description box below for my Twitch stream, as well as my link tree where you can get my other YouTube channels if you want to see me talk about sports, do reactions, or comic books. Those are all my link trees. Want to show support, buy some merch, also in the link tree. I've been boy, Anubis, the gamer archer. I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm out of here. Y'all stay safe. Becomes another. Deuces.